Okay, so I want to apologize first. I've been bugging you, and I booked an appointment before and it didn't go through because of my schedule too. So, but thank you for creating time. As I said, my name is Moses. I'm originally from Kenya. I might not have worked with you directly, but I think I've worked with learners sometimes. And so I said I have a platform, YouTube and Facebook, and most Kenyans usually ask me, how do I get a consultant? Back home in Kenya, they call an agent, right? But here we call it immigration consultant. Now, as most of the things that I've done with Frontera is most of the times is usually study permit. And my question was, other than study permit, and what else do you offer? Like, what others do you offer? Do you do, for example, let's say someone is in Kenya and is trying to find a job.
Okay.
And he's trying to get a job. So do you help with that?
What's your email? Is it Moses CK?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just send you some notes.
Okay.
All right. So with immigration, typically, if there are 1,000 things that a lawyer or a consultant can do, we only do a very few things of those, but they're the things that would matter to you or to most of the people that you work with. So first of all, the only people that can assist with immigration are immigration consultants in Canada.
Okay.
And immigration lawyers.
Okay.
So if you're going to pay someone to help you, those are the two people who could do that. And these would be called authorized representatives.
Okay.
So there are things that I don't do. I don't go to court. I don't do refugee status applications usually. There's the odd one we'll do, but it's not part of our practice. So in our practice as an immigration consultant, that's what I would be. We have rules and regulations that we have to follow because we have a government body that is over us. And that governing body has recently changed.
Okay.
And the rules to become a consultant have recently changed. So we can certainly find that. RCIC Canada. New website. ICCRC. So this is the new governing body that we have to follow the rules with. Okay. And this is where you would want to come if you wanted to find an immigration consultant or information about an immigration consultant in Canada.
Okay.
So when we do a retainer agreement, we have to do it because this governing body is this. So our rules and regulations are in this website. So I put that website there. If you ever wanted to look at it, you could. So then that would come down to lawyers. My husband's a lawyer and he does immigration, and he would do things that I don't do.
Okay.
So what we do at Frontera is we do temporary applications.
Okay.
So that would be if you're going to come Canada as a worker, a student, a visitor. Those are the temporary applications.
Okay.
Then we say, okay, so that's really how you would have come. Once you're here as a worker, student, or a visitor, you probably want to stay longer. So then we will assist with permanent residency.
Okay.
Permanent residency, there's lots of different programs, right? You have provincial programs,
Express
you
entry.
have federal programs, you have family class applications. So we would say, yeah, we do all of those things. So if somebody wants to come to Canada, we can assist them to come to Canada. If somebody wants to stay longer, we can assist them with permanent residency or options that would allow them for permanent residency. We also have in that family class application, that could be a spouse, it could be a parent or grandparent. So we have to say, okay, what options are there? So we definitely do these options. When it comes to a worker, there are different types of working applications. You might have one that's LMIA based. You might have one that's a postgraduate work permit. You might have some that is international experience class. You might have some that are free trade agreements. So they're all different types of applications depending on where you live and what you can do. So we would look at all of those things and say, okay, which one is it that you want to do? But that would be basically what we at Frontera will do. Once you're a permanent resident, then after a while you may want to become a citizen. So then we would work with citizenship applications.
Okay.
So there you go. That's what we do in a nutshell.
Okay. All right. And then quick question here. For students, because most of the students usually ask me, hey, Moses, is when they say they need an agent, I said, the first thing is you apply school. And then you have to book an appointment with Frontera or any of the individuals or your support at Frontera. And then once you have the school, then you can have an appointment. But what's the benefits of using a representative? Is there a guarantee like to get a study permit, or are you?
No, it's never a guarantee. So that is something that we have to realize here. So I'll put this. Does hiring a immigration representative guarantee success? That's what you're wondering,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Oh, no, not at all. And in fact, I will just bring up a chart here that might help you understand what that's like. So we can go to this study permit refusal rate. Look at on the left-hand side. I'm going to go to Kenya. I'm just going to go to some African countries.
Pick Kenya in particular.
Pardon?
Pick Kenya.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So we're going to go to Kenya. 73% refusal rate.
73.
This was in 2020.
Okay.
So if I was to say to you, oh, does it guarantee success? No.
Okay.
The 2020 refusal rate for a study permit from Kenya was 73%. So we say, okay, well, why? Why would that be the case? Well, you probably know a lot of people who are refused.
Yes.
So a lot of times they do use agents, and the agents in their country may not be very good at their job, or they're not consultants or lawyers. So they shouldn't be assisting with something that they're not skilled at, or that they have the authority to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So we come in here and so what we do with our students is we give them two things. We give them a study plan questionnaire
Okay.
because we want to know, are they going to meet the requirements that the government is going to ask for? Let's just take a look at this. So when we send this to them, if we had a consult with them, then we say, here are, I'm sending this to you so
Okay,
you'll
yeah.
have it.
Yeah.
So, why do you want to come to Canada? What's your overall education? Why study abroad? Do you have ties to your home country? How are you going to pay for your fees and tuitions? So here are just some examples of things that would be super important for them to prove in their application. So we go through that with our students because if they can't afford to come, if we can't prove that they have finances, then they'll be rejected.
Yeah.
Or if the finances is for some random person and not a mother and father or somebody close, we want to make sure that when somebody comes to Canada, they can afford to be in Canada.
Yeah, because
Go ahead.
Because I remember when I tried to apply for my brother, and you asked for the family tree, right? So I was like, because it said it's an our uncle sponsoring, so you say I have to draw the chart to show how related we are, how related they are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then in one of the seminars that I went to, it was amazing because it talks about in this seminar, and I'll send it to you because it's something that you'll want to know. Study permits are very hard to get a positive result. And so here were some of the things that need to happen. We need to prove, like, what was their financial backing?
Yes.
What are their ties to their home country? What kind of background did they have in studies? If they were failing in Kenya in their studies, then what will that mean to this time? I'll send this to you as well.
Okay, sure, thanks.
But you want to say there's 4 different people that are dealing with this application: the client, the consultant, the visa officer, and the school. So everybody has their own motives or their concerns about their goals for this application.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that it's a successful application, but we need to prove it.
Yes.
So here are just some amazing things about assessing an application for a student. So I'll go ahead and send this to you as well.
Okay.
So that you can get the feeling of how to make a good, strong study plan. So that's in here.
Okay.
This is something that we would send to a client to make sure that they understand what that means.
Okay.
And then what are some red flags? This is what usually will cause an application to be refused. So how much funds do they have available? Who's sponsoring them? Is it guaranteed? Are the funds tied to real estate or other investments? Are they just going to say they sponsor them and then they get to Canada and they pull their funds? We want to make sure that the funds are solid and straight. So I will go ahead and send this to you. I think it'll be super helpful for you to get some really good information.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
And one quick question. How about, for example, I'm just gonna throw a question here and then make them understand. So, for example, let's say your family ties. How do you even, or travel history? You've never traveled outside Kenya. You've never gone anywhere. How do you even support that? Like,
yeah. So travel history is actually one of the easier ones that we always put into our application. There is law already that states that you cannot refuse an application because someone hasn't traveled. So we always just put that in our application.
Oh, okay.
And that's never a problem. But it is why a lot of people get refused. They'll say, oh, you had no travel history.
Yeah.
Well, then, but they can't say that if we put in the Canadian law in regards to that.
Okay. Now I understand. All right. And then when I was trying, somebody told me, for family ties, somebody told me, hey, Moses, listen, if it's your brother and you say, hey, I have my brother, let's say my brother applies and he's in Kenya and wants to come here. It's like, if you apply and mention that you have a brother there, then it's another problem because they say, oh, your brother went to Canada and never came back. So how do you, and that's, how do you even explain that?
So in an application, our two things are always be honest and accurate.
Honest?
So if it's going, they're going to know that when you put in the family information form, they're going to know. And so you just need to address it, whatever the issue is. I have a brother currently living in Canada. That's really exciting for me because now I can share expenses with him. I can live with him. It's a real positive for me.
Okay.
So you just need to address it so that they can't use it as a reason to deny you.
Okay. Okay, there was another. Now, in terms of work permit, so I know, sorry, I jumped right away, but in terms of work permit, for example, do Frontera help? Like, for example, let's say if I need to apply, look for a job in Canada, can somebody somewhere, let's say in Kenya, talk to you or contact Frontera Immigration and say, can you help me find a job? Or if they're qualified, or you don't, how do you go about this?
Okay, so in any time when somebody's outside of the country, it's much more difficult to find a job in Canada. So the first thing you have to do is you have to find an employer, somebody who's willing to hire you. If the employer is found and you do get a job, then the next thing that has to happen is the employer must apply for an LMIA, because you need the LMIA and job contract to apply for a work permit. So if we go back to the LMIA, we're very, very definite that this LMIA must be paid for by the employer. Now, there are lots of people out there who say, you don't, pay me $30,000 and I'll get you an LMIA.
Yeah.
It's a terrible racket. And so you just need to realize you need to find an employer that will do the LMIA for you, because that is the rule in the work permit process. The work permit itself can be paid for by the employee. Now, some employers are going to pay for it just so that because some people just don't have the funds. They'll pay for it. Those are funds that could be reimbursed at a later date if they have a contract stating that. But let's go back to finding an employer. So the employer must apply for this LMIA, and they must pay for this LMIA. The LMIA is a whole process in itself, and it's done through Service Canada. Service Canada is the processing office. Whereas when you come here to get a work permit, IRCC is the processing office.
Well, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So when it's processed here, it is about a job. Could the employer find a Canadian or a permanent resident for the job? If not, then they can apply for the LMIA. Whereas the work permit is about a person. Does the person qualify for the job?
Okay.
So these are very different. IRCC is going to want you to make sure you're criminally admissible, that you are medically admissible, and that you meet the requirements of the job. Okay. So if it was a skilled job, you'd have to prove that you have the skills for the job.
Okay.
So two different agencies working on this application.
Okay. But do Frontera help with that at all, or it's?
Yeah, so Frontera does both of these things. They help employers with labor market impact assessments, and they help with employees finding jobs. So both of these are done by us. What Frontera does not do is recruiting.
Okay.
We do not assist with recruiting.
Okay.
That's a whole different licensing.
Okay.
That's a whole different program. In fact, we say to everyone, we do not assist with recruiting.
Okay. So that's...
Yeah. Saying that, because of that issue, a few years ago, we started trying to get a company set up that acts like a dating service for employers and employees, similar to LinkedIn or any other one. And so you could go to Devo Canada.
Okay.
And it is now up and running, like just recently.
Okay.
And this is where you could go and it will connect foreign employees and workers to come to Canada. So the other thing that isn't up and running yet is also the ability to do language courses to help them with passing the language requirement, which is super hard for a lot of people.
IELTS.
Yeah, IELTS and CELPIP. So that should be up and running on the site shortly. I just noticed it wasn't here yet. Okay. So there'll be another tab up here that says language.
Okay.
But so it just started, so people can go in here and register if they're a job seeker. Okay. And then employers will start advertising on here. Okay. And the employers pay a fee, but the employees do not. Okay. There's no fee for somebody to put their name in. Okay. In regards to that. No. So above and beyond that, when somebody comes to us and says, can you help with recruiting, we just tell them that any employer that's going to hire a foreign worker must apply on the job bank. Okay. Any employer wanting to hire a foreign worker must advertise on the job bank. So, and I'm pretty sure you probably know what that is. Yeah. Here, jobbank.gc.ca. So they would come in here and they would look for a job here. And in fact, some of them will say, I have an LMIA, you can look for that. But that's where we would send somebody. We would send them to say, hey, check out the job bank for jobs that are there. Saying that, most workers find employers through family and friends. Okay. They're just going to network, right? Oh, yeah. That is really how people find jobs in Canada, is networking. Unless you can do Devo Canada or the job bank, but mostly most workers will find the employer through this. Yeah, which it makes it harder for any other person. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, it's not an easy process, essentially. Right, and I do have some employers that truly have found their people on the job bank. That is where they've gone to get someone. Oh, okay. Especially, we say, okay, well, what kind of job would be, and this is something you might want to know, jobs in demand. What are the jobs in demand in Canada? Yeah. Well, food service, right? If somebody is a kitchen helper, a cook, they'll most likely be able to find a job online and get one, because there aren't any Canadians. So I know that my employers, if they come and they say, okay, Cathy, I really need someone, they'll go to Devo Canada, and then they will get hired through Devo Canada in food service. It's not a big range right now. Yeah. So we have food service, agriculture. So you want to come as a farm laborer, a greenhouse worker, a mushroom worker. These are employers desperately need people in all of those industries. The other industry that we do a lot of is hairstylists. Oh, really? huge demand.
Wow.
And if you had somebody who had worked for 2 or 3 years as a hairstylist, they could easily get a job in Canada.
Wow. Okay. That's good to
Yeah.
know.
So, I mean, I don't do all industries, but these are industries that we do a lot of.
Okay.
I'll also put in here landscapers.
Landscapers.
Landscaping. So that would be like putting in trees in people's
Yeah.
yards,
Yeah.
the design of the yard. So those are the industries that we typically help with.
Yeah.
And I know that all of those are always advertising for people.
How about a temporary work permit? I've seen people get, is it Apiary or mostly in BC, or because I've tried to look up those stuff for temporary work, and I realized they're looking for people to work in the farms, just usually summertime most of the time.
Yeah, so the government has 2 different programs, temporary agricultural programs. And there's only certain countries that they're allowed to hire from.
Okay.
It would be the Seasonal Agricultural Work Permit Program. Kenya is not one of those countries.
Okay.
But there is just recently a temporary program that's available for seasonal work, basically. And you can work up to 270 days in jobs like agriculture, landscaping. These would be 2 examples of jobs that are seasonal, right?
Okay.
You're only going to come for a little bit short-term employment. Well, that's the last thing you want to do coming from Kenya, though, is to come for 270 days and then go home.
So, but could you help though? Well, let's say somebody shows up. Could you help them, or could they?
Yeah. So we do all of these. Everything I've talked about, we do.
Okay. And then
the only thing we don't do is recruiting.
And then the other question was, could you show up as a visitor and then change into study permit or work permit?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. Come on. So the short answer is yes. If I am a visitor, can I apply to be a worker? So during COVID, they allowed people to make that transition if they were in Canada. That is now no longer a possibility through that program. But there's always, if you're here, the application would be an out of Canada work permit. So they still have to apply out of Canada. They might be in Canada, but the application is an out of country application. So it still goes through your, for you, Kenya, and it would get done like that. And then at the end, you have to send that passport somewhere to get a visa put into it.
Oh, okay, I see. That's interesting, yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I think I covered the list that I had, and you've given me more than I actually intended, or I was planning, or I had in my list. So yeah, because usually people ask about work, it's work, and then you mentioned about the people paying for work permit, right? Somebody tells you gotta pay for this, and then I'll help you find out. So people have been conned a lot of money. It's just people are paid money for not knowing actually what is supposed to be done.
And lots of times the people who are getting lots of money for the LMIA don't even have an LMIA, and people are just being taken advantage of.
I know, it's so sad.
So that takes us back to making sure that if you're going to have immigration advice, then it must be through an authorized representative, an immigration consultant, or an immigration lawyer. Don't go to other people who say that they are what they are, because they're not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I mean, I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much, and I hope. I usually focus on study permit myself because I know it's usually it's. I think it's the most for me. I think it's the most straightforward. If you have everything required, it's not like looking for a work permit or looking for an employer. It takes a while.
Yes, but I bet you're surprised at this refusal rate.
Yes, I'm surprised. Yeah.
So we have other African countries that are 89, 91% refusal rates.
I'm surprised. But to be honest, with the people I've sent to Frontera, the chances I don't remember anybody who's been denied. So that tells me.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. If you go to an immigration consultant,
yeah,
it will greatly increase your ability to have a positive application.
Yes.
Only because we're going to make sure that you have everything that you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, I hear people from Kenya that have applied 7 times and been refused and refused and refused.
And then they show up.
Yeah, and eventually it'll be positive because they found out everything that they had to do. But who wants to do that? Wouldn't you rather do it right the first time?
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and we've had people who have come to my office later for their postgraduate work permits that came on their own, and it was a positive study permit that was awful. That study permit should never have been approved, but it was. You know, so you just never know.
Yeah.
I think you have different officers. So is it a good day for the officer? I don't know why they would have approved that application, but they did. Yeah. And you could have other people that'll have a perfect application, absolutely perfect, and it's still refused.
So I wonder. I guess it's becoming it's like a lottery now. It's a win-win now.
If it was a perfect application and it was refused, then we would just resubmit.
Okay.
We would say, you know, you can ask for reconsideration. We typically don't because they take way too long. We would just send a new application saying this was refused. We have met every one of these, and we put down what we've met. Yeah. So we would suggest that they just continue to try again.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think I covered the most, and you've covered the most. I truly appreciate Cathy, and I will share with some people this one or my contacts and see how it goes. And I truly appreciate it. I've worked with you before, but the person I was working with just say, oh, he's not interested anymore. But everything was going okay. I think he was not able to provide the required documents. That's why he bailed out.
Yes.
But I know Frontera, it's the chances are very high.
Yeah. So I've sent these 2 things here. These are amazing for you to look at, especially the one that's from the seminar that I went to. It will go over so many things that really help with applications.
Sure. So, yeah.
All right. Well, have a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Good day. Bye.